Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Check, check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Check, check, check. not on. It doesn't plug in at all. We went to the planning.
Our community development director will be out here in a few moments. I don't know why you would get this noticing.
Well, this is old. Well, it's a month old. So.
Okay,
see,
so
we
they
went
had
to-
tabled it at
That's
P
what
and Z,
happened.
so therefore it changed the date that it would come before
Okay,
council.
that was it.
So it
We were there
wasn't
for
an
that.
over, right.
So it was tabled, so that's why it's.
Not, yes, because it has to go through P and Z before it comes to city
So
council.
we'll call city council tomorrow or the planning.
Call Ben tomorrow, Ben Brymer. No, it has not happened yet, yeah, no.
All right, that answers our question.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'm sorry that you made the trip out. Good night.
That's exciting. Congratulations. I'm here.
I got you.
I've been here.
Tammy's here.
It's George Dodson. Oh, there he is.
George is here.
We just need a city manager.
And Callie.
He's solving problems out there.
I mean, we're not 3 minutes late.
Okay,
Getting this hot now.
They're hot, yeah.
thank you, ma'am.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to call the regular city council meeting of the city of Colleyville to order for February the 4th, 2020 at 7:34. So now in session. Let me call the roll. Councilmember Nakamura.
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood.
Here?
Councilmember Wheat.
Here.
The mayor is here. Councilmember Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Rigney.
Here.
So we will open it with an invocation, as we always do, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is going to be given this evening by Pastor Lee Johnson of Bear Valley Church.
Let us pray. Father, we want to pause for a moment and recognize the thankfulness that we have in our hearts, that we are so blessed that you have richly given us bountiful blessings. We want to thank you, Lord, for our freedom, recognizing that all around the world there are those who live in much less freedom than we enjoy here in our country. And we know, Lord, that a great country is really built upon great neighborhoods and great communities. And so, Lord, we thank you for this community, and we ask your blessings upon it. Our prayer, Lord, is that you would make for us a safe and happy place, and a place where children can grow and develop. We ask, Lord, for the kids that are growing up in this neighborhood now, in this community. We pray, Lord, that you would make them champions of love and justice and hope. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pastor Johnson, I really appreciate you coming and giving us that invocation, and I like your prayer. We were talking just before the meeting about how blessed we all are in Colleyville, and it's true. And we should, none of us take it for granted, because that can change in an instant at any time. But thank you so much. Appreciate it. As always, I welcome you to the meeting. There's agendas in the back. If you would like to look at that, there's items on the agenda tonight that will have public hearings, and you're welcome to speak on any of those. If you would like to, I'd appreciate it if you would fill one of these cards out. They're in the back, and just give it to any one of us. But I will not close a public hearing until I ask if everyone's spoken that would like to speak, so that I don't miss anybody, whether you fill a card out or not, because we really do want to hear from you, and we're happy that you're here. I want to do a couple of things. So first, I want to say happy birthday to Councilmember Nakamura. It's her birthday this week, so
37.
yay, 37.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. I'm a little bit over.
And the other thing I want to do, we have a Leadership Colleyville class with us tonight, so thank you guys. In fact, and Carolyn Sims, the president of the chamber, appreciate you being here. I would love for each one of you to come up here and introduce yourself to everyone, so we all know who you are.
Huh.
You didn't know you were going to get to do that, did you? And Carolyn, you can come down and introduce yourself also.
Mayor, did you know this is only half of the team right here? This team is really lucky because they're here at a short meeting. We'll make sure.
I know, I
the next-
was going to tell
sure
them,
the
this
next
is,
one really long.
it is going to be a short meeting tonight. We're not going too long, not to 2 a.m.
Hannah Curtis. What else? Is that good?
Yeah.
Nice to meet everybody.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Eva Diva Mitra.
Super.
Judd Johnston.
Chad.
Candace Sandifer.
You tiptoed.
Brian Brooks.
Right.
Duran Jenkins.
Ken Moon.
Great.
Carolyn Sims, and this is only part of our class. Our class has 23 people in it this year. Some of them have already been here, and a few more will be coming between now and the 1st of May. But they,
Including me, Callie Rigney. Do I get credit?
okay, there you go, okay, there you go. Callie, you're in. You got this one.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you guys coming, and this is a class assignment, I assume.
Yes.
Good deal. So are you enjoying Leadership of Colleyville so far? It's a great program. I went through it so many years ago, I can't even remember. But it's very worthwhile, and you meet a lot of people, and so we're glad you're here. So,
Thank you.
Can we do a picture in front of y'all real quick?
sure, absolutely.
I mean, I realize it's in the agenda that's gonna go to 12:30.
That's okay. We can make it as long as you want to.
Don't encourage
No,
them.
no.
You wanna leave us here? Yeah.
I think when
No,
they
you're
did
okay.
it, but
You-
they were
you don't have to do
typing
that.
things on stone.
I'd say that too.
Yeah, we can. Sure.
Mayor,
You got somebody take city picture too? Carolyn, you ought to be in there.
oh, well, our community relations person has already left the building.
Come on in here. You ready? Come on. Come on. Can you get us all? Come on.
Right to the back.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Let me take one more. 1, 2, 3.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I know what it is. Thank y'all for doing that, but Carolyn just wanted proof that you guys were here. You know that, don't you? She is tough. Can't graduate without it. Okay. With that done, we're going to move to agenda item number 2. Which is, we do not need. Agenda item 2 is for the purpose of taking action coming out of executive session. We just came out of executive session. We always go into that at 6:30 to 7:30. And we talk about things back there, but we can't take action outside the public. So if we want to take action, we have a resolution and we would vote on it in the public. So that's what that, and we have no action to take tonight. So we're skipping agenda item 2 and moving to agenda item number 3. Agenda item number 3 is announcements, proclamations, and presentations. And so I know we have some announcements. And so I'll start. So I want everybody to know we have the State of the City open house this week, and that is Thursday, February the 6th in the evening at 6:15, and I'll be giving the State of the City, so I'll tell you all about what's going on in the city over the 2019, and also that day, at the Colleyville Chamber of Commerce luncheon, I'll be doing the State of the City. It will take me 30 minutes, Carolyn, so. But please come to one of those and listen to it. It's a lot of information crammed into that 30 minutes because a lot has been going on in the city. I love to talk about it, and I love for citizens to hear what's happening. And of course, you can ask any kind of questions you want to, especially at the open house. We'll have city staff there. There'll be time for questions. If you have anything at all you want to talk about or want to know about, we're happy to tell you those things. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one. Last week, the city officially closed on the 15.1 acres that the Northern Gateway property. The property is located at the southwest corner of SH 26 and John McCain, and it was purchased for $4.3 million, or $6.537 per square foot. That's we say $468,731 because that was less than the appraisal.
Yep.
This strategic purchase guarantees our control of quality and the type of development coming to the property. Clearly, the best zoning is zoning. Right, Mark?
That's right.
Mark did a fantastic job. Whole staff did, getting this property.
Speaking of Mark,
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
So this is our local
I just saw
GQ
this.
representative. Where's the slide?
I just saw it. I didn't
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, no, put it up there.
All right.
There we go, get it up.
Put it up there.
Let's go.
All right, so Mark Wood, one of our assistant
There
city
you
go.
managers. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, the February edition of Public Management Magazine, which is published by the International City County Management Association, I know you all have subscriptions, will feature Mark Wood on the cover because he has an article that was written, he wrote the article, and it's about the simple yet effective budgeting strategy. I'm sorry, my mind is not working straight today. Budgeting strategy of Colleyville. So he's our local celebrity right now. That looks great. We're really proud of you.
Thank you.
And proud of all of you for working so hard on our budget every year. It's really exciting. And the second thing I wanted to mention is the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra is coming to Colleyville. They're going to be at Colleyville Heritage High School on February 21st in the evening. And it's a free event for all local residents. You just need to stop by the library to pick up your tickets. And we hope you'll come and join us. It's going to be a really great event.
Mark is worldwide now. This goes all over the planet, right?
It is, it's global.
Yeah, he's,
You've got a subscription. so-
yeah, he's actually TikTok famous, or
Right.
or that's what,
Not just in Texas, all over the
yeah,
world.
all over the world.
So these are, just so everyone knows.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. These are the tickets for the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra. Like I said, they're in the library. And
What's the price of those?
These are free
Free.
for all
Oh,
residents.
free.
But
So-
you have to have one.
You do have to have the
a
ticket.
ticket.
Just
Yeah.
stop by and pick it up. It takes less than 5 minutes. I've picked some up. And the high school orchestra and band is gonna have front row seats, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're also going to have a meet and greet with the orchestra members.
Which is great. I'm glad we've got that organized.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. Well, with that, I've got some good news and bad news. So I'm going to start off with the bad news. Erin Spicer, which she was,
Here.
there's Erin right there. Wasn't here to take pictures. She will be leaving our city. We're sad about that. She's relocating to Colorado. She's moving there because of love, I believe. And so love takes us different directions sometimes. So she's leaving, and she has managed community relations, and she's done a great job. And so she's put together the meetings, events. But the good news is Ronnie Orr is moving over from the community center over here, and she's accepting the position of community relations and events specialist, and will pick up where Erin left off. So we're not going to be left without anybody having fun social events. So she's going to come over here and do that. And so we're very excited about Ronnie joining the team over this side of town.
And Erin must be hiding. She's-
Yeah,
Anyway, I really appreciate Erin. I wish she was here so she could hear this. But she's done a fantastic job with the city's social media and
Yes.
communications. She's worked really, really hard on the state of the city, video and all the graphics that you'll see when I give that. She's done a super job. We'll miss her.
yes, we will.
By the way, the website too.
Oh, yeah.
When she
Website,
came,
yeah.
the website had a lot of issues. And she was really, really helpful in getting that. I was lucky to work with her to do that. So it was great.
Yes, and residents may notice new faces at the door as the Census Bureau will have volunteers out in the community starting in April and completing at the end of July. All census workers should have a photo badge and equipment clearly identifying them as official representatives of the Census Bureau. Please take a few moments to speak with the census volunteers as we work to provide an accurate 2020 census count for our community.
Okay.
And I was at the Tarrant County Mayor's Council last night, and the census people were there, and they presented. And what's going to happen in March, you're going to get mailings from them, like up to 5 times. So you're going to get a letter saying, hey, census is here. You can do this online. They're really going to be stressing doing it online. It's like 10 questions, so it takes 10 minutes. And they will track who does and who doesn't. And so if you don't, you'll get another letter, and a postcard, and a reminder. And it's after you've been touched 5 times, then they send out enumerators, which are these people that Callie's talking about that will actually show up on your doorstep to try to get that information.
So
But-
what you're saying is they'll stalk you until you do it.
Oh, yeah,
Might as well do
yeah.
it on the first time. If you get it done, they will leave you
Yeah, they'll
alone.
leave you alone. And it ends the end of July, so that's the length of time the census will go on. Colleyville's always been very good about responding well, so thank you.
I'm going to talk about the tree trimming roadway program is underway. Public Works has begun our annual roadway canopy tree trimming. There are issues, as you can imagine. We have a lot of trees that are very close to the roadways, which we love, but when large trucks come by, they can end up not only scratching the trucks, but also damaging the trees. So the first street to receive attention was John McCain. This program raised the tree canopy while trimming the trees to remove dead limbs and overhanging branches. Crews will now move on to LD Lockett and Glade Road and then go throughout the city to help both our trees and getting through the city.
Last week, in cooperation with Baylor Scott and White Medical Center Grapevine, the Colleyville Fire Department, pardon me, sorry, Mark, delivered a Stop the Bleed presentation to faculty and staff at Bransford Elementary School. Stop the Bleed is a national public awareness program, and it was launched in October of 2015 by the White House with a call to action to begin training more people on how to become immediate responders until professional help arrives. The course teaches the ability to recognize life-threatening hemorrhages and intervene effectively. The fire department is ready to deliver this life-saving information to your coworkers, civic organization, or faith-based group. To schedule this seminar, call the fire department at 817-503-1400 or email kweir@colleyville.com.
I want to thank you, Chief Cantrell, for doing that. It's a great service. One last thing I want to mention, that just so everybody knows that when Highway 26 construction started, the enforcement of illegal signs and banners, we really relaxed. We've done everything we could to help businesses along 26. You can notice all the lanes on 26 are now done. There's still barriers up because they've been putting dirt in the median, and next thing that will happen is the city will come along and work in the medians to beautify the medians. But I just wanted to give a heads up to everybody. We're going to go back to the original ordinances and laws and rules along 26. So just FYI.
March
on that.
1st.
You want to, March 1st?
Yeah, March. Yeah, and most of what we're talking about is the temporary banners and streamers and things that you see. And most of them are pretty worn at this point, and so it's time. But we certainly want to work with the businesses, and we've given them ample notice. And so our intent is to begin enforcement March 1st, and we seek compliance. That's our goal. It's not our intent to write any violations or collect any fines.
Yep, okay. I've got one more thing to do. I'm going to have to walk down there to do it, and I'll need the microphone. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, it's on. What I wanted to do is present something to the council, and actually the staff too. Colleyville has been blessed. This council, I'm very proud of them, and our city staff has done an outstanding job in many things. One of them is what I just mentioned a while ago. During Highway 26 construction, we put in place many programs to help businesses, and been grants and all sorts of things. And the city has received a number of awards. And if you come to the State of the City, I'm going to tell you about every one of them. But tonight, I do want to present to the council acknowledgement of the 2019 TML, that's Texas Municipal League Municipal Excellent Award. So this is a big deal. The city won one of these. How many, there's very few cities won these this year. How many was it?
Was 6.
Six cities out of the entire state of Texas won an award like this. So this is a big deal, entire state award. I'm very proud of the city, you guys and the staff for doing the things it took to accomplish this. And by the way, we also won 2 other awards that were state awards from the Texas Economic Commission. as well as some others that I'll tell you about later. But this is a big deal. We're really proud of it. Thank you. I want to get a picture of all you guys. Come down here.
Picture of the picture? A picture of our picture?
Hey, Mayor, before we, George, hold on. We want to say something about the mayor as well. This guy right here is one of the, turn around. Face the camera. Don't you remember you tell people that all the time, right? This guy, we are so blessed to have this mayor. This guy, yeah, maybe he's older than Methuselah. Not really. Oh. That's Methuselah's dad over there. He's the smartest guy in the room. But really and truly, Mayor, you've been through this so many times, and you've helped this city for years and years, and we were blessed to have you come back on board and lead us like you have. You've taught us so many things, and we are so proud to be under your leadership. You've put a good team in place, and I can't thank you enough. All of us, Tammy asked me to say something. We're just so thankful for you. We have a great mayor. You're blessed, Colleyville.
Thank you. I did not do this to get that, but thank you so much. Okay, we do business here. We're down to business now. Agenda item 4, which is the consent resolution. So this is reading and public hearing of Resolution R-20-4467, a resolution approving city council action under consent items at regular city council meeting of February the 4th, 2020. Whereas city council has taken action on certain items on the agenda under consent items. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the agenda decisions approved by City Council action under consent items as follows are hereby adopted. A, approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of January 21, 2020. B, approval of a proposal for bank depository services with Frost Bank and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreements. C, approval of a professional services agreement with Westra Consultants, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $382,500 for the design of the Nature Center Hike and Bike Trail project and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. Yay. D, deny all bids for the 2020 microservice project. Okay, Kyle, you want to talk first?
I'm sorry, I had a PowerPoint that may not have gotten loaded. That's all right. I'm sorry, we'll keep trucking. I'm happy to be here. This has been a long process for us to select a new depository bank. I'll just run through a quick summary here. On September 23rd of last year, we sent out requests for applications to all banks that had branches inside Colleyville city limits. And the law requires us, of course, to post advertisements of those RFAs, requests for applications, in the newspaper, which we did on the 22nd and 29th of September. And ultimately, we had 6 banks respond. They were Pinnacle, BB&T, Capital One, Chase, Frost, and Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, I'll note, is our incumbent bank. We have been working with them since about 2010. We're also happy to have an internal evaluation team that consisted of several different staff members, not just in finance. Of course, myself and members of my staff were on that team. We had Assistant City Manager Mark Wood, Fire Chief Mark Cantrell, and Public Works Director Ray Silva Reyes join us as well throughout this process. Very happy to have their assistance. Additionally, we had the assistance of Valley View Consulting, who provided valuable insight and helped us navigate through that process. In fact, Mr. Tom Ross, a consultant from Valley View, is in attendance tonight in case there are any questions that arise that I would be unable to answer. So our team had really 3 stages of this evaluation process. The first was very basic. Can they meet our needs? Can they do what we're asking them to do? Once we determined which could and which could not, we moved on to comparing the financial aspects of each proposal. And this is, I think, one area in which Valley View really shined for us. These can be very tedious proposals with all the fees that are listed. And so what they did was they distilled down these proposals to where we could compare all the bank fees, the safekeeping fees, and then net that against any potential revenue earnings that we could get over the course of the contract, both the initial 2-year term and the optional 5-year term. So it really gave us a very distilled and an effective look at what our earning potential could be with each bank. So once we went through that phase, we actually had 3 that were the final contenders here. I will go ahead and note that that's the phase that our current bank, Wells Fargo, was eliminated from contention. Unfortunately, their proposal simply wasn't as competitive or advantageous to the city as the others were. So selecting those 3 finalists, we moved on to our final consideration, which is very important to us, and that is service-related. We have to know that if there's an issue with any, if our bank accounts or anything like that, that we know who we're going to call, that we know that we're a priority for them, and that service is a high value. And so we had all those 3 banks come in and meet our staff, meet our evaluation team, and make just basic brief presentations. And from that, it was unanimous that Frost Bank was the right choice for a relationship with the city. In fact, we do have a representative from Frost Bank here tonight, Mr. Jeff Soliveria, Senior Vice President, who was there with his whole team to help us walk through their proposal for us. So our recommendation is to approve the proposal with Frost Bank and authorize the city manager to execute those agreements. The initial term of the agreement would be from April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2022, and we do have 3 optional 1-year extensions under the same terms and conditions as well. So that about does it for a recap of the last several months for us, but happy to answer any questions or comments you might have.
Could you kind of dimension for us how much money runs through these accounts?
Sure. So the average balance, daily balance of these accounts, I think is around $6 million. And then that's the average daily balance of those accounts. Amounts over that do get deposited in an interest-earning sweep account for several $million more than that. So in total, the city, what's running through right now, we're at about $93 million.
93 million cash, total cash?
No,
Not all cash. That's cash and
investments.
investment.
Investment.
If you converted everything.
Well, I meant, that's what I
Yes,
meant.
yes, sir.
Money in the
Sorry,
bank.
I'm remembering my investment report from earlier tonight.
Money in the bank, same as cash to me.
Yes, sir. Actually, you know what? I have that right here.
Yeah, okay.
I think the one thing that's important, Mayor, is that on occasion, you go out for proposals and you use this process to evaluate the different options. You look for the best financial opportunity, but sometimes it's actually just healthy to change, and this was a great opportunity to do so, and the process sometimes does that for you. But this is a healthy thing, and we should actually do it more often than we have in the past. 2010's been too long, and so the shorter term that you're proposing makes sense. And I think it's probably appropriate to talk a little bit about that last process, about your decision-making criteria that came in to play in response to the final candidate's responsiveness to your request.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
First, Mr. Mayor, the total amount as of our last investment report in the cash and sweep accounts was well over $20 million. But to your comment, Jerry, so what we did was we had, on paper, we had our top 3 candidates, and we wanted to have them come in to meet them, to meet not just the finance staff, but to meet city management, fire chief, public works, and really get a sense for, how responsive they would be to us. I will say, two of those banks indicated that we would not necessarily be as high a priority as we would want to be. We run as much like a private business as we can, but we're not dealing with private dollars. We're dealing with taxpayer dollars, utility customer dollars. If there's any kind of a problem, I need to know who I can pick up the phone and call. And I need to know that I'm going to be a priority and that they're going to be responsive. From those presentations, Frost Bank brought in their entire team. It was more like having a conversation than it was being sat there and talked at. It just was unanimous that they would be the best bank for our relationship for the next several years.
Yeah, so, thank you for bringing that up, because I knew the background, and, so really, Frost Bank was chosen for that, actually because of the team you brought in and how that meeting went convinced you they were the best bank for us.
Yes, sir.
Even though they may have been a little bit more expensive. Is that true?
A little bit more expensive, not outside of the realm of
Yeah.
acceptable and fine for the city.
Right.
But it was that customer service related portion that really edged them ahead.
Really, my only intent was to highlight that, how important that was, how important that service relationship and ability to pick the phone up and call somebody if we need it. So we appreciate you being here tonight.
And just a quick question. Who were the other two banks?
The other two we brought in were BB&T and
Capital One.
Capital One. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
In Capital One, the difference annually was about $40,000.
Yeah.
Annually, that was the net difference. And just a quick comment, some may be watching this and wondering, why is the fire chief and public works director involved in this process? And the reason is, we really push cross-training opportunities.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity that doesn't come along very often. So at staff meeting, we were very forceful in encouraging any department head who may want to experience this once in a great time opportunity. And so these two gentlemen both volunteered. I would have loved to seen more involvement, but it's a great testament to each of them to, well, Chief, since you brought it up, Police Chief Miller, since you brought it up, would have been a great opportunity for you as well. But it was nice to see them involved because they were stepping outside their comfort zone, learning something new, and provided valuable input to the process. So it was appreciated.
Mayor, I can add something, a little color to the customer service aspect. So all three banks led with the same statement, which is customer service is first priority for them. However, immediately after that, two other banks followed that up with, however, the person that would be on your account couldn't fly in for this meeting.
Yeah.
Let's put them on speakerphone and have them call in. So it's very clear to us that the first statement wasn't going to be necessarily true.
Yeah.
So.
Very good.
Yeah, and one other thing, Kyle, if I could, we're talking about credits here, actually. The bottom line is that banks pay us for us depositing our money and running our money through their bank. So it is a credit for us, not a, well, there's expense, obviously.
Sure.
But the final bottom line is a credit, and about, $114,000 in 2 years. So about $50,000 a year. So it's money that we get for the use of us using their bank.
Sir.
So it's a great deal. Thank you very much.
And the number I was referencing was over the 5-year term of
Yes,
the
sir.
agreement.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Because technically, it is provided for a 3-year with two 1-year extensions.
I think it's 2-year and 3 1-year extensions, I believe. Yes.
5 years
Yeah.
total.
5 years.
5 years total.
I'm sorry, Jerry, I wasn't trying.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure you clarified that.
Any other question for Kyle?
No.
No,
Thank
but I
you.
do have something I want to say, talking about the cross-training that Jerry was talking about. And I want to say thank you to our city manager, because from the very first day that he came here, he has stressed this in every department. He has had every one of the department heads, cross-train in every other department, and you don't see that in other cities. We always tease him that he's training Adrian and Mark, our assistant city managers, to take his job at any time, and his response is always, well, I hope they do. So kudos to Jerry on that, because Jerry has done an amazing job on making sure that everybody in all of the departments are cross-trained in the other departments. And again, you don't see that. And thank you, Jerry, for doing that.
We have a great team.
Yeah, we do have a great team. And matter of fact, I just got to make one more comment. So our two assistant city managers, Mark Wood and Adrian Lothry, they literally switched jobs totally. So anybody who's paying attention knew that Adrian did all the budget preparation, all that kind of stuff, and Mark did other things. Well, now he's doing it and wrote an article. I got his picture on the front of the magazine. I got to tell you, Adrian wrote a great article last year. Unfortunately, they didn't put a picture on the magazine.
We think it's the glasses, okay? We think it's the glasses.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Okay. Ray, going to talk about the next two?
Yes, sir. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. I'm here to seek approval for the professional service agreement with Westra Consultant for the design of the Nature Center Hike and Bike Trail project. This project consists of approximately 5,600 linear feet of 10 feet wide concrete trail to connect the Nature Center to Sparger Park in order to provide a continuous, safe, and paved route from those two areas. The proposed alignment of the hike and bike trail will be designed to minimize its impacts to trees, property, and drainage patterns. Along with this project, there'll be easement acquisitions, and there will be bank stabilizations for the Little Bear Creek as it comes closer to the banks of it. City staff recommends approval.
Yeah. So real quick while this is up, so the red is one option for the trail.
Correct.
And there's a little extension to the south that goes into Saddlebrook?
Yeah, we were thinking, that's an option.
Yeah, no, that's
I don't know how that's gonna work depending on how it's congested there as far as getting access.
Well, I'm just gonna say it'd be great if you could.
We're gonna look at that. That's one thing we decided to give access to those neighbors
Yeah.
there, but we are gonna look at that for sure.
Yep.
Our goal, more globally, is to have every subdivision in the community somehow have access to our three greatest assets.
Yep.
One is our regional Cotton Belt Trail, 2 is the 26 commercial corridor, and 3 is the Nature Center. And so that's a big task, but these kinds of pieces are important in providing a trailhead at 26, so there's a third way into the Nature Center.
Correct.
Not just the existing 2.
Ray, their HOA president's right behind you, so you can.
No.
She's the one to talk to, yeah.
She's got some pull.
Yeah.
And this is one of the projects we're pursuing for grant purposes as well. So we decided it's best to go ahead and get the design underway, so that as grant opportunities come up again, we can show them the intent that we're serious about doing this.
Good job.
Okay.
Ray, I have just a quick question. If we get in situations for where we can't use 10 feet or it costs us tons more to do that, or like you said, get around trees, that can be modified slightly, I'm assuming, right?
That can, we will definitely look at those to make sure we can keep that trail as wide as possible, but we will look at decreasing the size if need be.
To save trees and
Save
other
trees,
things like
yep,
that.
absolutely. Correct.
Okay, just wondered.
Okay. So for 4D, we are here seeking denial of the bids for the 2020 microsurface project. So this project was advertised, and we got 2 bids back. The low bidder did not qualify per our requirements to do this project, and so as we were doing our due diligence to check that out, we realized that the second low bidder, the other bidder, also had an interlocal agreement with the city of North Richland Hills, and even though his bid was at $477, the second low bidder, the ILA would get us $1 less, and so we were going to look into that direction to go with them. However, I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit before we proceed down that route. The microsurfacing process or pavement treatment is part of the local street maintenance project. It hasn't been done over the last 2 years, so I was going to try to get it back in here. But it's a product, I mean, it goes for around $4 per square yard. It's only based on the pavement condition index that we presented for the local street maintenance plan. It applies for that certain treatment. It hasn't hit the level of deterioration to require overlay or mill and overlay, or full depth reclamation, sorry. And so this is just an interim process. It will probably last 2 to 3 months on this payment, and it'll start deteriorating pretty quick, but it is something to prolong the life of the payment. Before I start to go look at that interlocal agreement with North Richland Hills that would benefit us to getting the the second bidder engaged, I want to see if that's a route that council would like to go, or if we should continue to see if maybe an overlay would be the best process to go with this. Now, the overlay cost is a little bit higher. So you're looking at $4 a square yard, and an overlay, you're looking around $15 to $16 a square yard. So it is a huge difference, and it gives you another 3 years of payment.
I was going to say, yeah, because a while ago you said full depth reclamation only gives you 3 to 4 months. I don't know if you heard that part, and that's what I want to make sure that if you're doing a mill overlay, which I like better than I like the chip seal, I think that, to me, my position is that that is a better way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the experience that we've all seen with the chip seal, we've done that in the past. We had a good bit of complaints on this particular, what you were just describing, this particular vendor that bid with us, but then already has a contract with another city at a lower amount. Was kind of interesting. We didn't get the same amount.
Correct.
So I think I too would like to see you take a look at those options and maybe come back in a work session or something and tell us what that looks like.
Right, would it be a full chipping out mill and an overlay, or would we just do a slight overlay over what we
We'd
already
probably
have?
just do an overlay to kind
Okay,
of keep
so-
the same status of what the micro resurfacing is, but just better.
Okay, so that would actually save us even more money there
So
by not
yes,
milling it
yes.
too, so, okay,
Yeah.
good.
The other thing that's to our advantage is working with the county saves us some
Yeah.
money, so.
Yeah, they've been very good to us.
They've been wonderful.
They do great work, too. I mean, we've been
Yeah.
really
And
They
quick.
just won't do, they can't do everything we want them to do, so it's a
They've
limited.
lean on
tried,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, we can try. I mean, every time I talk to Gary Fickus, I tell him we need more roads done. I'm
I'll-
serious.
Good to us.
I'll reach out to them, and this is a little bit much more, as you can see, the
Yeah.
streets that are shown here,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more than what we've been giving them. For the last HMAC project that we did, last council meeting, it was 7 streets or so.
Yep.
So this is a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'll
Okay.
look into that.
never hurts to ask.
Yeah, one,
All we
yeah,
do is
if-
say no.
That's right.
just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
And because we have had complaints on the chip and seal, seal slurry, or whatever it's called. It's basically a oil kind of base and then rocks over it.
Yeah.
My recommendation, if we do go with that, make sure we see the results of their product, because I think we've seen some bad situations.
Yeah, it was the rocks that people complained
It's
about.
too
They
coarse.
sloughed off and,
The problem is
Kinda like the fade
the
away.
application is designed to wear away, and when it does, it creates the perception that there's
Smoother.
rocks on the road.
Yeah,
And so it's by its very nature, it's designed to wear in a way that doesn't affect the integrity of the road. So it works fine functionally, it just is not pleasant to look at, and it feels like you're driving on a road that is eroding and creating a grit that appears to be less than ideal quality.
Sure.
So, but the function of the engineering of the road works fine, it's just not a real popular thing, in my opinion, in subdivisions.
I'm not a big fan of it.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, I need to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Any cards? Kathy Hadley? The only one.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. I am not in favor of this. Trails going through our parks from neighborhood to neighborhood, 10 feet wide. Really? Does this not ring a bell to y'all? Do y'all not remember the council before you that you replaced everybody? They wanted to do sidewalks all over the place. And it was much smaller. This is 10 feet wide and trees. Oh my gosh. That's horrible. I am just horrified. And going through a park area, what kind of damage are you going to do to the wildlife? And then we have I'm sorry, I got to calm down. We have sidewalks now. People don't walk them. They don't ride their bikes on them. 10 feet wide, all it's going to do is be a 10-foot wide piece of cement. people don't need that much space. They just need a little sidewalk. I oppose this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That's all the cards I have. Anyone else wish to speak? See no one indicating they want to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is.
Do you know when Rich wanted to speak? He didn't put a number on there.
I think, Rich, you want to speak at the comments at the end, citizen comments? Eva just asked me about your card, right? I mean, yeah, well, that's when that would be, that's what I think. Okay, I'm going to close public hearing if no one else wants to speak on this item. Okay, public hearing is closed. Mrs. Hadley, just one comment. Do we still have that picture available? Yeah. I know you probably people haven't seen this picture before, but all of this trail basically, there's three options here. The red one is most representative. It goes through an area that's really not even open you can't walk in there today. It's along the creek. So I don't, it's a different, you were referring to, I think, to Glade Road, the sidewalk issue along Glade Road. I think, as George pointed out, we'll be very careful of the trees, but this will make an access that's not available to people today that is on the pedestrian committee's recommendations, and it's been on our kind of long-term plans for a while. So anyway, happy to talk to you about that some more, but just wanted to comment on that.
And just, this is only the design work. So part of the design is understanding the route that minimizes the impact on trees, and also working within the constraints of the creek and the floodplain, and all of those are challenges. The nice part about this type of trail design is it has some flexibility. The one question about width certainly could be discussed as part of that design, 8 foot or 10 foot, but traditionally you want a decent size, a wide area, because it's going through a natural area. You want to prevent the encroachment of plant materials that will, affect people on bicycles or walking. And you also want to make sure that it's wide enough so that you have easy passage of individuals that may be running, more professional riders and more family-type riders. And if you picture a family on the trail on one side and people coming the other way, you want to make sure that it's easily passable. But the 10-foot or the 8-foot standard is a traditional standard for pursuing grant money, and so that may be a criteria if we were able to get grant money. This is about the design, so all of those questions will be answered later. But the 10-foot is the new, what they call AASHTO standard, which is the design standard. That's why Mr. Silva Reyes mentioned that number.
Yeah, this trail will be kind of analogous to the Park Trail in Grapevine, where it goes through the woods by the creek, and so that's kind of what it envisioned to look like.
I think Ms. Hadley's right too about the trees too. We're going to be sensitive about those, as you've noticed. And I agree with you 100%. And also I agree with you about the sidewalk. I think we need to take just a peek at it and see what it is between, like city manager was saying, which way to make it feasible.
Okay, no other comments? The motion would be in order on the consent resolution.
Could you put the number up for the resolution? I don't have it here.
Number is R204467.
So I'll make a motion to approve R20-4467.
I second the motion.
You have a motion to approve by Councilmember Wheat, a second by Councilmember Dodson. Would you open the vote, please? Vote's open. And you may show it when it's ready.
It didn't come up.
Christine,
Didn't come up.
not coming up.
Christine, I can't vote. Mine's not up.
Okay.
Mayor, while I look into those, would you please call the record?
Okay, we're going to do this manually since that's not working. Councilmember Nakamura, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindemood?
Aye.
Councilmember Wheat?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye. Councilmember Dodson?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigney?
Aye.
So the motion's approved, therefore the resolution's approved. We'll now move to agenda item 5A. This is first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-20-2109, consideration of a request for a special use permit for an accessory dwelling on Lot 1, Block 1, Schiller Edition, located at 2001 Hall Johnson Road, case ZC 19-022. So this is first reading, so there will be no action, but we will have a public hearing. Ben?
Thank you. Ben Briner, Director of Community Development.
As you stated, this is a request for a special use permit for an accessory dwelling to be located at 2001 Hall Johnson Road. Here's an aerial photo of the site. This is on Hall Johnson on the south side. There was an old house with an accessory dwelling. They have either have torn down or are in the process of preparing to tear down the old house. They are currently constructing a new house. There was an accessory dwelling that has existed on this site for many years. In looking at the history in our records, we do not show any documentation for it, so really this request is to bring it into compliance with the Land Development Code. The current zoning is the R30 Single-Family Residential District, and it is designated for residential use on the future land use map. So here's the pictometry photo of the property. So you can see the old house there to the rear or the top, and then the structure in front of it just to the right as well. That's the existing dwelling, accessory dwelling. And then there's a smaller structure in this photo that has been removed. So again, the existing primary house is to be removed, and they're currently constructing the new house in front,
Okay.
closer to the street. So per the Land Development Code, for the R30 district, it does require a special use permit approved by the City Council. And these are the regulations associated with that. It is an accessory building, and it shall not exceed more than 4% of the aggregate for accessory buildings per the lot, the size of the lot. And then also specifically for accessory dwellings, shall not exceed either 50% of the primary structure square footage up to the 4% or 1,200 square feet, whichever comes first. And it does comply with those requirements. Here's some data for the site. So it is a little bit over 1 acre, 46,107 square feet. With the R30 district, it allows 25% lot coverage, which is 11,527 square feet. And 4% of the lot area is 1,844. And so the new house, as you can see, is 3,241 square feet. This is an existing 691 square foot structure. And so that is only 1.5%, so it does meet within the 4% allowance. And then total, it's 3,932 square feet, which is only 8.5% of the lot area. So it does comply with everything. And this is just a slide to identify some of the other requirements of the R30 district with setbacks and lot coverage. And it does comply with all aspects of the R30 district. Here's a site exhibit showing the location of these buildings. So Hall Johnson is to the north, to the top of this image. So the existing primary structure will be removed. The new house you can see is now closer to the street. It will be forward of this accessory dwelling. Again, it meets all of the required setbacks. And this is a floor plan of that structure. Again, 691 total square feet for that building.
Okay.
And here's some photos and a rendering of the new house, which is, again, currently being constructed right now. We did send our notices to surrounding property owners within 500 feet, and we did not receive any notices back, one way or the other, for this. Staff does recommend approval. It does comply with the regulations required for accessory dwellings. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission also does recommend approval. They voted 6-0 at their January 13th meeting. And with that, I can answer any questions.
So you've already stated this meets all ordinance requirements?
That's right.
This lot is platted?
It is.
Because the house has already begun? Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
I think the zoning and the plat happened about mid-year last year, or maybe towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
A
Council, have any questions? Go
You're
ahead.
talking about accessory dwelling here?
That's right.
Okay. We don't currently, do we currently have restrictions on having a rental property on a dwelling, a rental dwelling?
That's correct. And we do not allow for the rental. It can only be used for a family member or someone who's employed by the family for the who's living in the primary residence.
I
This
understand
will
that.
be for a parent.
But is it written, is it written?
It is
such that-
written, but we are also adding clarifying language in our next item on today's agenda.
I know that,
Be
but
explicit, but
if we approve this, my question is, if we approve this and we approve the other, this will be approved before it goes into effect, is that correct?
But we do already have language that it cannot be rented. It can only be used by a family member or an employee.
Are you sure it says it can't be rented?
Yes.
Yes,
But to allay your concern, both of these ordinances together, we can do the other one first, vote it on first, vote this in second.
You can
I
also,
mean, we vote next.
If we
meeting.
do that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to approve this
Yeah.
and then have them grandfather.
Yeah.
well, another corrective measure is just simply put that condition in the
Yeah,
special
right,
use.
yeah.
And then if the ordinance ever changes in the future, the special
Yeah.
use still must be
Yeah.
adhered to.
I would like to see that condition put on.
Okay, so let's make a note that we'll, for the next reading, we can make the modification to the ordinances in our packet. The other thing I'd like to do is go ahead and just switch 5A and 5B at the next meeting.
Sure.
Be minor.
Okay.
Good, fine,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing then. Public hearing is open.
No, sir.
Have no cards. Anyone wish to speak? You're welcome. State your name and address, please. Thank you.
Nancy Scott. I'm with Scott Home Builders, 217 Fountain View Drive, Euless. And I'm the builder for the new house.
Mhm.
Also happen to be cousins with the family.
Good.
So keeping it all
In the
close in the family, yes. Yeah, so we're just here to answer questions, and this is the owner.
Hi, Adam Schiller, owner, and yeah, just here to answer.
Could you state your name and address
Yeah.
just for the record?
Of course, Adam Schiller, 2001 Hall Johnson Road, Colleyville, Texas.
Very good. Thanks. Any questions for the applicants?
I just want to say, I live around the corner, so I watch you guys all the time, and what you're doing it correct. You put in your retaining wall first, then you got your foundation in. You guys look like you know what you're doing, and you keep your site clean, and I like it. You've already put silt fence around your pile of dirt up front. That to me means something. That means you guys are attentive to what you're doing, and I appreciate that, just as a resident myself, what you're doing.
Thank you very much. And as a matter of fact, Ben mentioned the demolition, and we actually started that yesterday, and then it started raining.
Oh.
So we are trying to get the old house demolished
Yeah.
so we can proceed.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. I'll still have the public, anyone else wish to speak? See no one indicating they want to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. That's the first reading, so no action tonight, so this will be on the agenda next meeting for action.
Mayor,
Yes.
Just a clarification, Councilmember Wheat was discussing the question of why we would want to put that in the ordinance if it's already in the ordinance as a condition. And the one reason is that the special use is an extra layer of requirement. And by putting it in the special use ordinance, even if the council in the future changed the regulations, that property would still have to come back for a change.
Yeah.
And so it's an extra layer of protection, I guess.
And I want to make one clarification. My compliments was not because I'm not doing the demolition, so I don't want anybody out there to think that I was doing the demolition too, so. When she said that, I was like, oh, great. Somebody's going to say, oh, I know why you said that, so anyways, thank you.
Okay, very good. So we'll move to agenda item 5B. This is also a first reading of an ordinance, so there will be a public hearing but no action. This is first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-20-2110, consideration of amendments to Chapter 3, Section 3.24B, schedule of a permitted principal uses, and Section 3.27, accessory buildings and residential carport regulations of the Land Development Code. Jen?
Thank you. I can't remember the month now. A month or two ago, we had a work session to go over potential changes to accessory buildings and accessory dwellings specifically. And so these are those amendments. Specifically, it's a prohibition of accessory buildings to be located forward of the front facade of the primary dwelling, except on lots 80,000 square feet in size or larger. And there's a clarification to the height allowance and how to measure the height. And then a clarification on what qualifies an accessory dwelling, which would be both the structure as well as the use of a structure, and the need for the special use permit. And then removal of the special use permit option for accessory dwellings from the R20 zoning district. And so I'll go through these specifically. The first one is that added regulation that accessory buildings shall not be located forward of the front facade of the primary structure, primary dwelling. That means that they would have to be to the side or to the rear. They cannot extend beyond, if you were to draw a line in front of, at the front most part of the house, it can't be forward of that line. The exemption would be for larger lots, which is 80,000 square feet or larger. I copied the exemption for a number of accessory buildings, which there's an exemption for lots 80,000 square feet or larger. Typically, those houses are pushed further back, and so there may be instances where it would make sense to have an accessory garage or something forward of the house. But again, it would only be for those 80,000 square foot large
Ben?
or larger lots.
You want to discuss that now, or you want to go ahead through everything?
No, we can.
Yeah, I prefer that we not leave, not allow the buildings in front unless they come forward with any size lot. Because there can be situations where they put buildings that aren't pleasing in front of a main house. I don't know why they would do that, but I really would like for those situations to come in front of the council. That's my recommendation.
Okay. So then, if the council agrees, we would take the exemption out.
So currently, that's something like a gatehouse even for a driveway, right? And I see in some of the larger estate lots.
Yeah, this is.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with this.
I'm okay with the exemption too,
Yeah.
because that would also be a detached garage if you had, it wasn't connected to the house. That would be considered the same thing.
I've seen them. We're stalls.
Well, it's definitely something we can think about and decide by next time.
Yeah. Because we're talking about RE residential estate zoning.
Right.
And ag.
Pretty, yeah, and ag, yeah.
And that's a pretty big lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about it some more.
Great. So again, the revision to the language for how to measure the height, this is really just to make it easier on our end and for the property owners. Currently, it allows for a height up to the primary building. We have had a few situations where we've had a single-story house with a really shallow roof pitch, and then they want to have a large accessory building in the back that ends up being a little bit taller than, or potentially could be taller than the house itself. This would take that regulation away and just say it shall not exceed the height of the zoning district. And then we would measure it from the grade of where the structure is, not necessarily in relation to the primary structure. And so this would allow for greater clarity for everyone involved. Okay. The next revision is specifically on the accessory building and the use. Currently, it only identifies the reference to the dwelling purpose for an accessory dwelling. And previously, it was using more of the noun definition of what a dwelling is, which would be all components, which would be a place to sleep, a restroom, and a place to prepare food. And typically, that's a full kitchen, which includes a stove and the oven. We've broadened that to include the actual use as a dwelling, regardless of whether it has all those components or not. So this is just to clarify that. So if it's a structure that does include all the components, or if it's a structure that somebody is using as their primary dwelling, it would require the special use permit in either of those cases. are adding also the last part in the red, no accessory building or accessory dwelling shall be rented. That's just to make it explicitly clear. It does already identify that in the definition in chapter 2, but this reiterates that here in chapter 3 as well. As part of the review by the Planning and Zoning Commission, they wanted to at least propose a clarification to what would constitute dwelling in a structure, and so they've recommended that if somebody's living in a structure for more than 30 days, then that would constitute dwelling, which would require the special use permit. We had a conversation about, if you had somebody, a family member visiting, they were here for a couple weeks, and they were occupying a pool house or a different type of structure. They wanted to make sure that people understood that that was okay. It was just when it was more long-term, so they proposed the 30 days as a way to kind of set a guideline.
So let me ask the city manager something. So P&Z asked for that to be in there. Without that, what would your interpretation be of something being used as a dwelling?
Well, to me, a dwelling means you have permanent occupancy as your domicile. It's the place you live, it's the place on your driver's license, it's your place where you reside. An accessory structure is a place that you may occupy for the sake of ownership, whether that occupancy includes storing a vehicle, using it for storing materials, a pool house with an indoor-outdoor kitchen, bathroom, all of the things that are temporary in nature but are not permanent residence. So I would have argued that without that green language, you could have families stay in your pool house for a couple of days or even a week or two because it's not their primary residence. They live somewhere else, they're just visiting. And so just like if you had kids having a sleepover, they can go out and sleep in a tent. It doesn't mean they reside there. It means they're temporarily occupying it. And if they set up a tent and the person put their address and put a little mailbox out in front, like Snoopy, I would say they live there. And so that's the way I would differentiate it. I think their intent is good with that green language. I think you got to be careful that it implies that short-term occupancy is somehow acceptable. And so,
Allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern about it would be that how would we monitor it, you know? You're not gonna go out there, and if they're there 31 days, kick them out.
well, and maybe, you adapt it to say dwelling is defined as, occupancy beyond a certain period of time. But I think the definition stands on its own. It doesn't need a lot more clarification. So sometimes when you try to clarify it, you end up making it worse.
Yeah.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, Jerry, on that.
Okay, very good. So we'll,
What about people renting a home, like a short-term rental type of situation? Could we come into a problem there, or do we need to, I don't know?
Yeah, well, that's why the accessory, because the primary structure, when you rent a primary structure, whether it be for a month or a year or whatever, you're renting the entire property. And so
Okay.
the idea here is that separate buildings on the property shouldn't be treated as separate rentals. And so the Airbnb issue is a separate issue altogether, but under the current parameters, nobody should be occupying the dwelling units for any rental purposes. And so Airbnbs would fall under that. That litigation that's going on right now with Grapevine is something that we're watching to try to determine how ultimately we were going to regulate Airbnbs. Because that's a whole separate
Yeah,
conversation.
but there's still no way to police an Airbnb other than people, policing, neighbors policing and that sort of
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, that's where it's going to come down to is
Yeah.
complaint-driven calls,
yeah, but right now, there is no rental,
no rental.
period.
So whether it's rental for a day, rental
Right.
for a month,
Yeah.
rental for a year.
So that's a good point though, Kelly, because, it just occurred to me as y'all were talking, having this 30-day in here, I don't know where the Airbnb stuff is going, but that could be a little risky for somebody to try to leverage that against the Airbnb.
Yeah,
So let
I
me-
could,
and I
I could
wanted
see
to
them just taking it off for a couple of days and then
Putting it back on.
start
Yeah.
renting it again.
Well, I'm just suggesting
And I
that.
have a question. Okay, 30 days. What if you have a relative whose house burns down and they want to move into your pool house or whatever your structure is until their house is built? So you're saying that then, at this point, they need to come and get a special use permit to
No.
stay there for longer than 30 days?
No, and, well, that's, I think, what this is
Yeah,
implying.
that's what this proposal would.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that, that language aside, you should be able to differentiate between somebody who is occupying an accessory structure on a temporary
Permanent,
basis
okay.
and one who's doing it on a permanent basis. This same green language could also allow someone to say, well, I'm only gonna live there 30 days at a time. But either way, there should be no rent collected. The problem we have is that right now, you know, if you ask someone, are they collecting rent, they're gonna probably say no. And so for us, enforcement is going to be, first, it's gonna be a complaint that drives the interaction, and then it's gonna be some type of action, probably through the civil courts with because if you write them a ticket and they plead guilty, they just pay the fine. And so they continue the act. And so then you take the civil action to get an injunction to stop them from doing it and use the criminal proceeding as your reasoning. But that takes time. And so it goes to a lot of, the tighter you can have the standard, the better off you are, so you can prevent it before it starts. Because we've already got a lot of it going on in the city, and it's only going to become more prevalent as the homes that were built for related living are sold and someone moves in with a family that doesn't have a related living need. And so they say, well, it's an income opportunity.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Your suggestion or your observation is that the green language might actually be more problematic than helpful.
Well,
I
it
tend to agree with that statement.
It implies that there's
Exactly.
a right to be there, and so why?
I'd prefer it not. I'd prefer to remove the green
Yeah,
language.
that's where I'm at. I appreciate what Penzi was trying to
Yes.
do, but there's a lot of factors.
They were trying to clarify, but.
Tough one.
I'm thinking, I'm hearing mostly that we prefer not to have that in.
Yes.
So I've not included it in the ordinance,
Understand.
Yeah.
waiting for this conversation, so it won't be included, but I'll probably keep it in this slide.
Yeah.
Just because they made that motion. Okay. And then the last change is simple change of removing the option to request from the R20 district. Staff does recommend approval of the amendments, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval. They made that modification. And with that, I can answer any other
Can you
questions.
go back one slide? I missed what you just removed.
Oh, yeah.
Just down there.
Oh, okay.
So currently, you have an option to request in the R20 district.
Okay.
This would remove that option.
Any other question for Ben?
Nope.
I think that's good.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Have any cards?
No.
Have no cards. Anyone wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating that, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed, so we do not vote tonight. We'll vote at the next meeting. We'll now move to agenda item 6A. Six A is reading and public hearing of Resolution R-20-4468, a resolution approving a replat for Lot 1, Block 2 of the Bristol Estate Addition, whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the replat for Lot 1, Block 2 of the Bristol Estate, being a portion of Block 2 of the Pleasant Oaks Estates Addition on January 13th, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the replat for Lot 1, Block 2, Bristol Estates Addition on approximately 2 acres attached as Exhibit A, plat exhibit is hereby approved, and it is so resolved.
Thank you. As you stated, this is a replat for Lot 1, Block 1, Bristol Estate, located at 501 Beverly Drive. Here's an aerial photo of the site. It is for a single lot. This entire block was platted several decades ago just as a block. It did not include individual lots. They were created over the years. The intent on this is to build a new house on this property and to remove the old house. In order to receive the building permit, it has to go through this plat process. The current zoning is the R40 single-family residential district, and it is designated for residential use on the future land use map. Here's the pictometry photo of the property. This one's looking to the south. So again, they will be building a new home on this property. They are not intending to subdivide it. It will remain as a single lot. And this is the plat in question. And this would allow for us to be able to issue a building permit for them to go forward with this project. Being a replat, we did send notices out to property owners within 500 feet and did not receive any response back for this request. Staff recommends approval. It does comply with all district requirements for the R40 district. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Ray? Ben? Excuse me.
Ben, Ray?
Ben?
All right.
Ben or Ray?
No,
No, it's pretty
Wow.
straightforward.
looks good.
Wow. Very good. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Kathy Hadley, that one cord.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. I understand the whole reason for changing this to R40s because they want to build a house and they want to do something special. And the way it is zoned, I mean, it's just a great big piece of land. It's like ag. But it has to be zoned R40 in order for them to be able to do whatever they're doing to their house. I'm opposed to that. How many of you have driven down the street? I'd like to see a hand. Okay, thank you. You know, they're nice, big, beautiful lots. They're big lots with big, gorgeous homes. Not necessarily huge homes. That's not important. But there's lots of space. This is a very old area of Colleyville. There was more space in this section of Colleyville, and y'all have just, you're taking up all the land and you're starting to break everything up. Goodbye, Colleyville. 10-foot wide sidewalks, here we go. And now you want to take these big lots, put them down to R40, which is not that little, but still, just to be able to get a house.
Ms. Hadley, I think
Oh,
there's a misunderstanding. If I heard correctly, Ben, let me ask Ben a question and go away. This is a little unusual. This whole area along Beverly is zoned R40 today.
Right.
And, but it wasn't platted as lots. And so there's blocks, so the lots aren't changing, but they have to formally do a plat so they can build a house. But the zoning is already R40.
Well, you know what? My neighborhood is the first developed neighborhood of Colleyville, developed neighborhood. And it's R20, but we're all virtually acre lots.
Yeah.
And by golly, when somebody wants to sell their house and somebody buy it and divide it R20, 2 houses crammed in right next to me. Do you hear me? I mean, it's
Absolutely, and it's very important of who you have sitting up here to ensure that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
I'm with you.
It just really, really saddens me to see it chopped up, and I know that it's coming down the pike. If this gets, I don't want to say, I don't know, approved or whatever, the remaining land around you, around that area, around my side of town, is going to be broken up into smaller lots, and now they're nice, big estate acreage lots. They're estates, what do you call it? Anyway.
Residential estate.
Yeah, residential estates. They're beautiful. And, you know, they're not great big monster houses. That's okay. It's the land that's important. So y'all really think about this. Because it's coming down the pike. I can guarantee you. It's P&Z. How many of you have been at P&Z lately? It's coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment. This is one of those lots that in the past, not so distant past, you may have had an applicant trying to come in and divide it.
Right.
And rezone it. And the fact that someone is preserving the R40 and basically the integrity of the larger lot is in line with what you're saying. So this is probably a good example of the comments you're making as to what we'd like to see more of.
Yep, correct.
Can I ask a clarifying question if you need to close the public hearing?
Yeah, let me get through that. I have no more cards. Anyone else wish to speak in the public hearing on this item? Are you the applicants? Yes. Come on down. That's okay. Just state your name and address. Do it in the mic, because it won't
Tracy
pick you up.
Bristol, 501. I can talk for myself. too.
Okay. I'm David Bristol, 501 Beverly Drive.
We bought our house in 1990. It's a 1965 house, and I'm all about the 60s. I just, it's a time capsule house. It's 1,700 square feet. And we've been there 30 years, and we've loved it. We have a lot of company, so we really agonized over tearing this house down, but we decided to keep the lot as a 2-acre lot. When we moved here, we had a horse and a pony, and our whole street was a petting zoo. So we really didn't want to move. We didn't want to leave Colleyville, so we really agonized for years. It was hard to make the decision to tear down our 60s house to build a kind of a modern farmhouse in the middle of the lot. But it's a really visible lot, and it's 2 acres, and we feel great about preserving the kind of country feel of our street, which we've just loved for 30 years. So.
Right. Just want to make it clear, we are not selling, we are not dividing, we are not changing the use. It'll be, after we build the new house, we'll have the old house demolished and the barn. So we will have just the one house, but we are not changing the character of the land at all.
Right.
There'll still be a garden. And I actually came to City Hall probably 15, 20 years ago to fight against breaking up those lots. And pointed out there was a horse in the city logo, and,
We appreciate that.
Yeah, in fact, when we got on the elevator, I'm like, look, that horse is still in the logo.
That's right.
My horse has since gone at the age of 30, but
Yeah.
but anyway, I just wanted to reassure everyone that,
Great.
yeah.
Good.
Are there any
Appreciate
questions of us that we
Sure.
can answer?
Anybody have any questions for them?
No,
Just
we
appreciate
just
you keeping it-
appreciate you
yeah.
wanting to invest in Colleyville.
Well,
Yeah.
we've loved it.
And keep that big lot like it.
Yeah, appreciate that attitude.
Thank you. It's our first lot.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? I'm going to close the public hearing. I see no one indicating that. Public hearing is closed. So if there's no other comments, in fact, I'm glad you guys come up and said that, because I was going to tell Kathy, you probably observed, this council has not allowed lots to be developed, split.
Split up.
And don't intend to. That's why I made the comment, it is, people really need to appreciate how important it is to have the philosophy of the people in these elected positions, because people in these positions literally can do anything they want to do. They can change any ordinances, so things can change rapidly. So I think it's very important to have a consistent philosophy about how do we keep Colleyville, and low density. Okay, motion's in order.
I'll move to approve Resolution R-20-4468.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Kelly, a second by Councilmember Nakamura, I think. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, the vote is open. We voting with this electronically?
Yes.
Everybody have the vote open?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are rolling on this. Yep.
Took mine? Hey, show it when you get it. Okay, that motion's approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Moving to agenda item 6B. This is reading and public hearing of Resolution R-20-4469. Consideration of a request for a final plat for lots 1 through 34 and lots OS -1 through OS-10, Block 1, Oak Alley Estates, being lots 1R1 and 1R2, Block 1, Bear Creek Plantation, located at 1312 John McCain Road and 7309 Holly Lane North, case PZ 19-021.
All right, thank you. So this is the final plat for the Oak Alley subdivision. This would allow them to get started on their public improvements, installing and constructing water lines, sanitary sewer lines, and then the streets themselves. You're familiar with the property. It's on the north side of John McCain Road, the plantation property. It received zoning, PUD-R, Plan Unit Development Residential Zoning. I think it was about this time last year. And it is designated for residential use. Here's the pictometry photo of the property. So again, the main house will be preserved, and then this will be for a, now I'm drawing a blank, I think 34-lot subdivision. This was the approved preliminary plat from last year. And then this is the proposed final plat. It does match pretty much exact to the preliminary plat, went through and the lot dimensions and the lot sizes all match between the two. So again, this is the final plat, which would allow us to authorize the construction of those public improvements, streets, water lines, sanitary sewer lines.
When you say pretty much, what are the changes?
Well, there are no changes.
Okay,
I mean, it's.
just making sure.
if
We'll
it-
ask Mr. Dion
Sorry.
a question in just a
You said
minute.
these are pretty much
The
matching.
reason I said that is because it might be off by a point value, like
Okay,
instead of 134.5, it might be 134.4, something
Okay.
like that. But the square footages all are exactly the same. It is the same layout.
okay,
There are really no changes at all.
all right. Making sure.
But there's, engineers, they make one little change and,
Okay,
Yeah.
Those engineers.
but so far, it matches, I would say, for all intents and purposes, it matches exactly.
okay.
Maybe just don't say exactly, and you've got yourself.
We did have the tree preservation plan, but this is something that was presented previously. Again, they'll be preserving the majority of the trees. And we did send our notices out to surrounding property owners. This will be a private street gated subdivision, and that was authorized with the zoning. But we did send notices out and did not receive any responses back on this. Staff does recommend approval. It complies with all the requirements of the zoning as well as the land development code, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval.
Yep.
I can answer any questions.
Got a question for Mr. Dion.
Okay.
Just as a
Welcome to
procedural
us.
question, hey, Ben,
Yeah,
as a procedural
Ben.
question. So are you, for processing, do we then just go ahead and include a copy of this final plat with the original PUD ordinance for a record? Can we do that as a way to keep the document, because the PUD has so much detail in it, it'd be nice to have the final plat
Yeah.
for our record-keeping purposes with the original ordinance. And so there's a preliminary in there, but I'm just curious if City Secretary, would you be able to do that?
Mr. City Manager, I don't file any plats. That's something that comes out of the Community Development Department, and so I don't feel like I could. I could certainly include it as an attachment to the PUD, but for
That'd be
the
great.
actual filing with Tarrant County, that would.
Well, no, post-filing, all I'm asking for is include a copy of it with that ordinance, so there's one place for all of the information to be found. That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
In the
So-
city records, you're
Yes.
talking, in the city records.
Yeah, and we
But-
keep a
Yeah.
copy of all the plats when they get filed. With,
I
in this
think what he
case-
means, like if me as Mr. Citizen decide to look up this ordinance at some point in the future, like 10 years from now, when I pull that down from Laserfish, this final plat would be there with it.
Right.
Is that what
It
you
would-
mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you do that?
So we don't file the plats, those
No,
get taken
the-
to the county clerk's office, and then we can attach a copy.
That's what I'm asking, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll just have to remember to do that.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in this case is I'm going to hold on to the plat and not file it until the public improvements are accepted by the city,
Okay.
that they are built to city standards. And that may take several months.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just for longer term purposes,
Yeah.
like I just described.
Now,
And so if in the end, you get it filed and everything, get a copy to the city secretary so she can put it in there with the ordinance.
Yes.
Typically, what happens when somebody puts an open records
Yeah.
request in for their property,
Yeah.
we will give a copy of the zoning as well as a copy of the filed plat
Okay.
as two separate documents, because they usually go separately.
Yeah.
But we make sure that we include both of those in any open records
Yeah,
request for
so,
any
but
property.
I'm actually one level below that. Ask my wife, who looks up laserfish all the time. So if she wants to see an ordinance, what I just said and he suggested was simply, it would be available, not a formal open records request, but just somebody wanting to download it through Laserfish, through the website like you'd normally do. I think it's pretty easy to do. It just means a copy. She'd have to put a copy in.
It technically won't be part of the ordinance, because this will be a resolution, and so
No,
we
that's-
have to somehow identify that this is just an extra exhibit.
You can stamp it
Oh.
as a date of approved on it that's different than the ordinance. I'm just asking so it's part of a complete record for one-stop shopping for viewing. And so if you can attach it as an attachment, it can clearly be approved at a separate date, a separate time. So it is nothing more than a reference addition, that's fine. But it's just nice that you've got the preliminary in there, and now you've got the final attached as a single reference point
Yeah.
for this record. That's all I was looking at.
So, yeah, so it'd really just be to somebody looking it up would be kind of an additional extra attachment to the ordinance.
Yes.
That's all it would be.
Yeah, agree.
Yes, you state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Rich Diot. I live at 112 Keystone in Southlake.
And you're here representing this
And I am,
application.
yes.
Also, two simple questions. Anything changed in this plat from the preliminary plat?
We added 5 lots.
Rich. Hey, you
No,
did.
I
know you're kidding.
My phone's already
looking
blowing
around.
up.
I'm seeing the same council we had a year
You know this is getting recorded.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just joking. No, typically, in this case, normally when you do a preliminary plat, things are pretty close.
Yes.
In this case, we were very careful, and y'all were very careful in the beginning. So we are on the lot layout exact. Some of the things that do change are exactly where an easement might go for a utility or something like that. So there's a few things that might be different like that as a result of working things out with staff. But we did not add any lots.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's even more than that. I mean, that would be an obvious, but basically, and I'm an engineer, so I understand what you guys are saying, but there's no substantial changes at all beyond what we all discussed for many, many hours in the ordinance and the preliminary plat when those were approved. Except for minor engineering technical changes that had to be there, there are no conceptual changes of any kind.
No.
That's what I wanted to hear.
None whatsoever, and I think the lot layout is exactly
Yeah.
what we have.
So one thing that was near and dear to my heart and all that is pedestrian access.
That is all just as it was when we were here for zoning.
Okay, so there's,
And utility stubbing.
and utility stubbing, yeah. So that's all the same. So there's 2 pedestrian access points, one down at the corner of Holly and one out on McCain, I think.
Mhm.
So that's all
Open
still
space.
there. Okay.
Or, yeah, in the way the
Okay.
front
That's,
lots are situated.
anything else that anyone?
No, that looks good.
Does it show that David Washington's property extends to where the home is currently at the curve?
Could you-
Or- I'm a little bit confused there.
I think it does.
Right there.
Okay, ask that again now.
So the extra property that's going to be demolished, right now, I'm seeing on page 157
Yeah.
of our packet, that his
Marco, one
property
more slide.
extends
No, back
all
the
the way
other.
back. So
There.
Okay, so on this, that's on the screen, Callie, right where Holly turns 90 degrees, so you're talking about right there where the back of David Washington's property?
yes, is that lot, is that where the current home is now,
Yeah.
lot 23 is?
I can't read the number there, but it's right there at that, yeah.
It's lot 23.
Okay.
That looks
Yeah.
like lot
I was just
23.
making sure, okay,
Yeah, that's lot 23. Mary.
And in fact, that's where one of the pedestrian access points are, right there.
okay.
Yep, and it's defined down there as 20-foot drainage, water, and pedestrian access easement
Okay,
along Route 20, lot 23 to get
yeah.
to the
It's
cul-de-sac.
like, go look up there along John
Right here.
McCain, there should be another pedestrian access up there somewhere.
You see right over there,
I think there was 2 across the front.
Gate.
right there.
Okay.
One on each side of the road.
May not need an easement, but
Reflecting
be
correctly.
a gate, so it'd be in the fencing, it'd be
Yeah,
in the
it
fence.
was.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I don't see it on here.
There should be one on the left side of the entrance and the right side of the entrance. They were open, from what I understand.
Yeah, I just don't see it on the plat I'm looking
From what I
at.
remember.
But it was in the ordinance as a requirement.
Yeah,
The other one
Yeah.
had to be on the plat because it's on private property.
yeah, it's an easement going through there,
Yeah.
right. Okay, anything else for Rich?
Looks great.
Well, thank you for indulging me a little.
No, yeah, no.
No,
Hey,
it's great.
we all like to have fun too.
I think you woke up a few people, Rich, I think.
You notice we didn't respond at all, Rich.
Okay, I haven't opened the public hearing, have I?
No.
Public hearing is open. Any cards?
There you go.
Nope.
Have no cards. Anyone wish to
Oh, wait.
speak on this item?
Here.
Great.
Kenneth Moon, resident, 1305 Belafonte Lane. I live across the street
Okay.
from this property. And what I'm seeing here really doesn't represent some of the earlier notations we made. When we discussed this with Mr. Burt Collins at his home at the time before the first reading was done, and I believe the representative from Randy White was there that was helping to develop the property. One of the primary concerns we had as residents there was that the main opening kind of have that access to see the beautiful trees and the property that Burke owns. And they agreed to that. And I understood coming up to the second reading, we received a notification, and that plat indicated that 3 or 4 lots were kind of removed from development where it would remain open, where you could see it from John McCain. That doesn't seem to be represented here. Now, I can't see it clearly, but that does not seem to be represented. So I'm not sure that we've met the good faith effort when we discussed with Burt Collins to what we have today.
So, while you're there, it's really hard to, I don't know,
I could try to zoom in.
can you blend them?
Because we were under the impression, I'm also on
Yeah.
the board for Caldwell's Creek Homeowners Association Board.
Right, right around that entrance, city manager's gonna blow that up on the screen, maybe what you're talking about. It's, you can't see it on that big plan.
There you go.
As I zoom out, this is John McCain. And as you zoom in, you can see, in addition to the lots, lot 1, 2, 3, and lot 34, there's OS 1, which is just under 12,000 square feet, and OS 2 is 17,000 square feet. And I believe these are the 2 open space areas that create that grand entranceway. Mr. Diak can confirm that.
Yeah,
So I believe
and push that up so we can see down Holly right quick, because I mean, just slide it to the whole thing to the north. I mean, on the screen, not physically, yeah, yeah. And so one thing that, the other big discussion was right down Holly, that's OS 10, I think.
Yeah.
That's a 30-foot green belt, and then that OS 10 area is all open, will be landscaped and everything there also. And that was something the people on Holly and back in this area wanted, so. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That,
the wall will go in there, so that, again,
Yeah.
that'll all be wide open area. Right? Is that correct?
Okay, we're talking to the south.
Oh, no.
well, but that was mine. Go back to John McCain, that's where he was concerned about. Yeah, yeah. Now go ahead and move it back to where he was concerned about, make sure he's,
This is the entrance.
These 2 were lots.
Yeah, and they're
so
both-
these will not be developed.
correct. So where they're open, there'll be landscaped open.
Yeah, landscape.
Yeah, so it'll be a pretty good size, entrance.
And believe me, we had them, we asked them to configure that to where you guys got what you wanted in the front, so absolutely, we took that part.
Well, and that's what my concern was.
Yes,
Because
sir.
Burke was very adamant that
Yeah.
they would try to accommodate us on that. So I just
Absolutely.
wanted to make
I'm
sure
glad-
that was reflected in the final.
Yeah. Honestly, I was doing the same thing, I was kind of going, ooh.
Yeah, looks like they'll be developed lots.
But I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Absolutely.
A second comment to that then, there were concerns over, and I thought we put this in one of our comments with the first reading. There were concerns with the 500-foot notification, especially with active homeowners associations and whether or not they would have an opportunity to comment on things affecting the neighborhood. Was that something that was ever brought up for consideration?
Yes, we notified out to that distance. What we did not change was the computation of what requires a supermajority. That remained the same, but we notify out to 500 at least.
500.
And the HOAs, yeah.
This one went 750.
Yeah,
Changed our rules now to 100.
Yeah.
With the 200 being the legal notification area for the objection.
Right. So we pushed this one out anyway, but we actually have since changed the ordinance to push it out.
So it's 200 for objection, 500 for notification?
Yes.
We notified everybody with 500 feet. Within 200 feet, though, you have a right to legally object and cause the supermajority for the council action.
Okay.
But you can always object, whether you live in that range or not. It's just to
Yeah.
trigger the
Yeah.
supermajority, you have to be in that 200.
We want to make sure that everybody had their opportunity outside that 200 range also to be notified to come
Correct.
before council as well.
Yeah.
Correct, that
Yes,
was
sir.
the concern.
Yeah, what was happening before is activity could be changed, and the people not that far away never knew anything about it.
Correct, and they're in.
So we want to make sure, and that was totally rewritten
Yep.
in our standards.
Mhm. And especially so for those folks that are going back on Holly Lane.
Yeah.
where
Exactly.
you are, Callie. I mean, that's a beautiful area back there, and they would be choked off with any notification for something that big. So,
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
very well, thank you very much.
Good
You're
questions,
welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Glad you stood up.
And Mayor, while I'm here, this is the pedestrian access we spoke of.
Yes.
You can see
Right.
it identified.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
Just want to say you guys look really, really good from here.
Oh,
Oh, wow, man.
Okay, we're actually still in public hearing. Anyone else wish to speak? I see no one indicating that, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, public hearing closed. Any other questions for Rich or anybody else?
No.
Okay, in that case, a motion's in order.
Move adoption of resolution R-20-4469.
I'll second.
Have a motion to approve by Councilmember Dodson, a second by Councilmember Rigney, I think. Okay,
Yes, sir.
the vote is open. Motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Thank you. Okay, now we move to agenda item 7, which is citizens' comments. And I have 2 cards. Kathy Hadley, 1.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive. I represent myself. I'll try to speak real quickly, but I have a lot of things I really would like to share with you. Okay, and I don't have my glasses. Okay.
You want to borrow mine?
Any cheaters?
Oh, gosh, oh, that's great.
Mine's pretty weak, but maybe they'll help. Oh, they won't work then. I think I'm a 1.1 or something like that. I might as well not even have
Made it
them.
worse. Do you want to try
This came in a,
They're not
I got
bad.
these from the Cracker Jack box.
Well, we tried, Kathy.
That's all I got.
We've got a stronger one if you need it, Kathy.
I just want to look cool in these blue glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get Mark's job.
They're on your head most of the time anyway, Kathy.
Okay, the trails along Bear Creek, here I go. 10 feet, I understand, I guess we have to make them 8 to 10 feet just to get the grant. I think that if you put it up for a vote, I think the people like to preserve the Colleyville country feel. Let's not make it nice and wide for everybody to ride their little scooters and whatever. You're gonna lose the country atmosphere. And you're afraid somebody might bump up against a tree? Well, guess what? You live in Colleyville, Tree City, USA. Also, I looked up on wildlife parks, Wildlife Parks and Wildlife, Texas, I cannot read this, Texas Parks and Wildlife, you can go to that.com. We have a rare, threatened, and endangered species all along this corridor of the Colleyville Nature Center and all along Bear Creek. I used to work for Bear Creek Elementary, so it's kind of like second nature. Anyway, we have 42 species that are endangered, threatened. There are some amphibians, many birds, and insects, mammals, and tons of plants. And so if we put in 10-foot wide sidewalks, there go a lot of them. This is their natural habitat. Bear Creek corridor has a ton of animals and plants preservation. Check them out, please, on the Texas Parks and Wildlife. And maybe you can get some funding from them to do a nice little path. Y'all call a 10-foot wide sidewalk a path? I call it a road. So, no, talk to this as someone you can maybe get a grant from to do a nice little trail. This really concerns me. I don't want you to cater to somebody who wants to ride their bike through the park and run over little animals while they're riding their bike through there. I can just see, I think you're opening the door for lawsuits. Somebody's gonna be enjoying the country atmosphere, walking with their children, and somebody's gonna go blowing through on a bike, and there's gonna be an accident, and we're gonna get sued because y'all don't have it marked properly for these professional bikers. They don't belong on bike trails, they belong on the road. And let's please not cater to people. Next thing, we're gonna have our little motor scooters if we make it really desirable, nice and wide. Plenty of room, let's make a little trail for them to follow. No, please don't. We don't wanna encourage that. Let's keep the Colleyville country atmosphere. And if you want me to talk to them, I'll be happy to. I don't want a 10-foot wide sidewalk. There go many trees, and I know y'all are gonna try to save as many as you can, but look at, I've got them all right here. All of the amphibians, birds, insects, mammals, plants. Y'all wouldn't believe it. Please rethink that. The other thing is, we need lane directions at each of the intersection lights on 26. Y'all heard me gripe and complain about Glade and 26, and y'all got it up there for the one direction. Please do them at every single intersection where there's a light on 26. The traffic here is getting really crazy, and y'all need it. May I finish?
How much you have?
I have probably about 5 more.
Do it quickly.
Okay. The lights on Main Street here in Colleyville looks wonderful. She did a really wonderful job. The trees, evergreen trees for our medians, please use the live oaks. They don't lose their leaves, or I don't know, some kind of pine tree, because that way when they lose their leaves, there we go. You have to get somebody out there to work and rake them up. But if you get evergreens or live oaks, you don't have them losing their leaves, and it'll be great. Or crepe myrtles too. Get some color during the spring and summer. Congratulations on winning the award. You are such a very deserving council. I'm very proud of y'all. Y'all deserve that award, and y'all are a shining light in the state of Texas, and I'm glad you got it. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And, okay, I need a code enforcement person to go down my street and the street behind me, Timberline Drive North, and the street behind me, which Mill Valley, I'm not real sure the name of it. And aren't they supposed to be driving the neighborhood, checking for people who are parking their mobile homes and stuff like that in the backyard? Yes, I'm on virtually an acre, and so are the neighbors all around me. And we have people parking their trailers and mobile homes up against the back fence for them, but it's like an eyesore for those of us on the other side having to look at it. And I have kindly tried speaking to one of the neighbors, and her husband passed away, so I'm very sorry to hear about that. I get it. But it's been months now. And now there's another, like a mobile home back there, and somebody living in it. And there's more stuff on my street that y'all need to have people go out there and look, please. Just all they have to do is really do a drive through the neighborhood, and they will see it clear as day. And then I'm sorry, I should go and talk to every single person, but the one who backs up to me, not backs up to me, they're great people, but backs up to my neighbor beside me, like I said, she said she lost her husband, so I understand, but it's been months now. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for all the good jobs that you do. Y'all are awesome. And real quick, I hope y'all all believe in Jesus Christ, because whenever we all die, I want to see all of y'all for eternity. I think y'all are wonderful. Love y'all all. Thanks.
Thank you. Rich Diot.
Rich Diot, 112 Keystone in Southlake, and I'm here to give you a little update. I was nominated by the city of Colleyville and got about half your votes for the Tarrant County Appraisal District Board of Directors. And I won, and I received congratulations and condolences from people for winning that.
We know the feeling.
Yeah, but it doesn't pay as much as y'all get paid. So.
I don't know, I think it does.
Dinner every 2 weeks, double zero.
It might. I expected, I think there's some issues. As we've been working on the property tax issue for the last several years, I've talked to a lot of people who sit in your seats who tell me, and these are people who set taxes and are trying to fund their schools or their cities. And, but there was this real interest in this issue. And I heard 20 times, if I heard it one time, that appraisal district is out of control. And so I decided to run. And I didn't really know what I was getting into. But what's really funny about it is it was a very calming experience for me personally doing this. I had to go and talk to city councils and school boards, and I got a lot of votes, got the second highest number of votes, and showed up on the board. Now, something important happened, two really important things. There was another guy that ran, Mr. Lasada, who you also nominated and gave him half your votes. He came in number one in the vote count, and he has been on the appraisal review board for a long time. So he and I both won. And another lady from Arlington, Catherine Wildman, won. And now they've got 3 new people on a board that doesn't change over very much. The chairman that had been there as chairman for 22 years.
Wow.
Did not win. I've showed up and I've talked to some of the other board members, and I have suggested that there are issues that our constituents, the members of these taxing units, have been telling me about. And I literally got a shrugged shoulder. Really, I hadn't heard that. The body of evidence is building, and I expected to kind of sit in, figure out the lay of the land, and after 3 or 4 months, start investigating. I want to tell you something. That has not happened. At our first board meeting, there was a kind of a circle the wagons power play, which was amusing for me to watch. And I participated in stirring things up just a little bit by continuing the discussion. But he gave me a sense of kind of where things are, and I was disappointed by that because it stifled a discussion that should have been free and open. And I want to congratulate y'all, your mayor and Councilman Dodson have both, I think you were in both meetings, weren't you, George?
No, I was only in the second.
In the second meeting. So Mayor Newton came and spoke, and his presence there, he doesn't understand the comments that I've gotten both times from your presence there made a big difference. I'm going to come back here. I've told every taxing entity, you've never seen anybody show up and campaign for this, and they hadn't. Some of them didn't realize they'd been voting on this. Some didn't realize that they'd never voted on it. So it's an interesting thing, because if the electorate, who knows what elections are for and how important these things are not plugged in, what do you get? You get people doing whatever they want to do. So before I ran, I want to say this. I was looking to find out whether there was real corruption involved, because frankly, I don't have time for that. I feel like people are handling things maybe in ways they shouldn't, but I don't think there's anything bad going on. And that means we can fix it. But it's going to take your involvement further, and I'm going to be back here further and more. In about 3 weeks, I've got a plan I'm working. Let me just say, I didn't think I'd be where I am right now with this situation until I'd been there for at least 6 months. I showed up at the first meeting. We had the power play. I asked for a public hearing. They kind of tried to redirect it to another meeting. Long story short, we had a public hearing 2 weeks into my service, and it was a room that was packed with people. We had 8 or 10 speakers. They brought their concerns, and they made an impression. And John Mullen, I was one of the board members, and he said he's been there 17 years, and he's never seen that many people in that room. And I'm just saying they're concerned about it. I'm angry at this point. I want to tell you this. What's going on with these appraisals and how this is happening and the way I don't believe the board has been well informed is a concern. And I know that somebody out there is watching these cameras right now. And we're going to get it fixed. And I think we've got enough information and enough political support that we're going to be able to get this problem fixed. And I'll come back and tell you how bad the problem is another night. But Donald Trump's talking right now. And from what I can hear, he's having a good time. So I want to thank you all. Here's what's important. I could not have won this seat without your nomination. I used that throughout the campaign. I got nominated by 3 cities. And as we started to get that support, that credibility got me beyond getting elected from people who didn't care. They said, 3 cities, that helps. So everything that you did, from that to your votes to support behind the scenes from your mayor, has been incredible, and it is going to allow us to fix it. And I want to credit Colleyville a lot for doing what's needed to fix an appraisal system that is really treating a lot of people unfairly. Thank you very much for your help.
Thanks, Rich.
So, Rich, I want to really thank you for standing up and doing this, and you and Gary both. Y'all put in an unbelievable amount of work. You know, when we were in campaigns as one city, these guys had to go to, I don't know, 20 or so meetings like this they went to basically campaign because we're the ones that elect you. I appreciate that. It's a big commitment. It takes a lot of time. And so, as you know, you got my support, and you got Colleyville's support, Gary does too. We'll do whatever we can. Part of that is educating citizens. Nobody knows how this works, including the elected officials, as you found out when you went around and talked to them. And that should be different. And I really give him a tremendous amount of credit because you're right. The first meeting I went to, which is the first board meeting I'd ever gone to down there, I was taken aback by process or lack of process, by lack of clarity of what should be in the meeting and how the meeting should be run. I really was taken aback. And you went to a lot of trouble in that meeting and had to argue for having a simple work session that I don't think they'd ever had before. And there was not just that power play to how the chair was elected at the beginning that I've told you guys about, but they didn't want to go into the executive session. They didn't want to have the work session. And I know I'm saying a general we, but I won't go beyond that right now. But you explained that that's something that should be done, and they did. And people showed up in that room because of the contacts you and Gary had. And it was a lot of people and a lot of mayors. A lot of mayors and city council members showed up. That was critical. And so that meant the elected officials are getting the message and understand. So I think you'll, as you know, you're going to have a lot of support from a lot of people. And you guys can make extremely rapid changes. I've already seen it. That second meeting, that work session, walked in that room like night and day. Had a table up there with skirts on the table with name tags, everybody sitting in their position. Had a flag, U.S. flag and Texas flag, which didn't exist in the first meeting. Wow. They said a pledge of allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag, and then Rich Diot opened in prayer. That had not happened before.
Ever.
Unbelievable.
Ever. That was the first time, and I was honored to do the first pledges and the prayer together. because-
It's always handled properly as a real meeting, and so, you know, hang in there. You got a lot of work to do. Be right there with you.
Thank you. I want to just mention, I thought of something. This is a fun part of campaigns, and I know y'all will identify with this. Nobody knows what this board seat does. And most people don't. But there was an interview that I did with a guy and some other people, and when I went to the Fort Worth ISD in the city of Fort Worth, they had people that they wanted to elect, and so I probably wasn't going to get their votes. Arlington had already figured out who they were going to give their votes to. And I went to Arlington because there was a groundswell for this obscure little seat. And I heard from one city, a person, in one of those, it was one of those three, I don't want to out anybody.
No,
They got well over 1,000, probably 2,000, that's an exact quote, emails telling them to vote for me.
wow.
And none of them did. But at some point, that kind of help is going to be needed because we've got a different kinds of ways we can, you know, I think we're getting cooperation. I think there's a little fear because we were coming in and there was the staff at TAD. We've got people that tell us what is going on in there. And I guess there were rumors going around that we just wanted to cut staff and fire people. Like that's going to help, right? Right. Let's get rid of everybody and see how bad this problem is. The dumbest thing. We want TAD employees to be happy. We want them to enjoy their job. We want to feel like they're being treated fairly and that their work is meaningful, because it is, and especially now because we've got a lot of work to do to fix it. But I'm getting general cooperation. I'm very thankful for that, and we're going to continue to work at that. But I will call on your help. And I know I've seen it already, and I give you a lot of credit. So when this is fixed, we'll have a party, and I'll tell you all the backstories to why your mayor is so critically important. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you.
Thanks for being the peacemaker that you always talk about, too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's all the citizen comments. Agenda item 8's reports. Any questions on any of the reports that are listed here? We have no need for agenda item 9. We have no ending resolution. That brings us to adjournment. I'm going to adjourn unless somebody objects.
Two times
Adjourn,
at
thank you.
9:30. 2 times at 9:30?